Developing right now, police in New York City continue to be on high alert this morning after former President Trump said he would be arrested as early as yesterday.
But the day came and went without an arrest, just a number of protests. Zinnia Maldonado live in Lower Manhattan with the very latest for us this morning. Zinnia?
Chris and Mary, good morning. Well, if an indictment is handed down, sources close to Trump say he most likely would fly from Mar-a-Lago to New York City to turn himself in. Now, that could potentially spark unrest, which is why the NYPD is ramping up security.
They know that we will defeat them.
As the wait for a possible Trump indictment continues, Trump remains at his Mar-a-Lago estate.
He isn't asking for this. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want it. This is something they chose to do.
Trump continues to speak out via social media, blasting Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, insisting he, quote, presides over one of the most crime-ridden, violent, and dangerous cities, while also insisting he committed no crime of any kind. The question for the grand jury is whether the former president falsified records to hide campaign finance violations in connection with a 2016 payment his former fixer Michael Cohen made to adult film star Stormy Daniels.
It makes no sense. It's desperate. And their key witness is Michael Cohen. And I think that says everything that you need to know.
There's been so many people testifying before the grand jury. You would never bring this case relying on Michael Cohen alone. There's going to be documentary evidence, demonstrative evidence, and other witnesses. Otherwise, there's no way he's bringing the case.
Despite calls to protest directly from Trump, demonstrations across New York have remained somewhat small.
The Department of Justice, the fact that it's been so strong in its pursuit of January 6 protesters has had a residual effect. And I think that certainly has sent some deterrence for people who support Trump and might come out otherwise to protest.
Tuesday, a handful of cars drove through Nassau County on Long Island, showcasing Donald Trump flags and signs.
Anytime there's a rally, I'm there.
And in Manhattan, dozens of Trump supporters gathered outside the courthouse.
Take our nation back!
But with the grand jury still investigating, law enforcement remains on high alert. The NYPD setting up heavy fencing around the courthouse, placing SWAT teams at strategic locations, and ordering all 35,000 of its officers, including undercover cops, to dress in full uniform and be ready to mobilize at a moment's notice.
You don't want to compound the problem by not being prepared when protesters do show up.
Now, barricades have been placed around Trump Tower as well as here at the courthouse where Trump is likely to appear if charged. We're live this morning from Lower Manhattan. Zinnia Maldonado, CBS 2 News.
Zinnia, thank you. 5:36, and our team coverage continues with CBS 2's Jared Hill, who's also at the courthouse.
Jared, we know this possible indictment is connected to alleged hush money payments to Stormy Daniels. Do we know what charges might stem from that?
So there's still a big question, Chris and Mary, exactly around what these charges could be, because, again, these proceedings by this grand jury are all done in secret. But this looks like it could center around, as you mentioned, that hush money payment, but not the payment itself, because that is not illegal. The question here becomes whether there were documents that were falsified by whether it was former President Trump or someone else within his organization to make that payment as an effort to conceal what was happening there. This would ordinarily, according to experts, be a misdemeanor charge. Now, the question is if this could be elevated to a low-level felony. In order for that to happen, there would have to be the proof that this was done in order to conceal another crime that was being committed. All those questions still remain over what kind of evidence exactly does this grand jury have, and what decision will they come with whenever they make that decision. Back to you.
And Jared, as the former president calls on his supporters to protest, how are members of the Republican Party reacting to the possible arrest?
So it's interesting here because I think by and large you have, and there's a street sweeper coming behind me, by and large, really, you have a number of Republicans who are getting behind former President Trump when it comes to the merits of the case, saying that this is politically motivated, making an argument that this should not be moving forward. Some even asking here for the DA here in Manhattan to send in information about the investigation, why he's doing this. But on the other hand, especially when it comes to some of these people who are either running or potentially running against former President Trump for the Republican nomination in 2020, 2024, they're trying to find a bit of distance. Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida in particular, someone who is supporting former President Trump when it comes to saying that this is politically motivated, but at the same time trying to separate himself from the chaos and circus that can surround the former president, also calling his character into question. So a lot of them are kind of trying to walk a fine line with all this.
Yes, a very fine line. Okay, Jared Hill live in Lower Manhattan for us. Jared, thank you. And we are following the latest developments on the possible indictment and protest. Stay with CBS 2 for up-to-the-minute information on the air and online at cbsnewyork.com.